Hi, babes. Welcome to the second episode of the Babe Method podcast. I'm your host, Manuela Method, and happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Last week, we recorded our first episode. It actually turned out really, really great. I was like so set on launching on a specific day because of like the numerology. Not again being an angel numbers girl. And then I was like, you know what? F it. Like the universe is going to have the timing it's going to have. And like, I'm going to have the timing I'm going to have. Let me just put this out when I feel ready. And lo and behold, it was a weird day. So regardless of how hard I would have tried to launch on a specific day, the day would have just gone the way the day was going to go anyway. Just do the thing that you want to do. There's no perfect timing. My birthday's coming up. It's my golden birthday. So I'm turning 28 on the 28th. I'm going to be in the city I was born in. So Medellin, Colombia. It's also on the same day I was born. So on a Friday. And my freaking best friends are going to be there, except for Anna. Anna, I wish you could be there. I might still, you know what? We might finesse. This year has been so weird. And I feel like so much has been leading up to this birthday. And today I watched this TikTok video and it literally talked about like it being the time for like quantum leaping, which listen, I know we're early into this podcast. We'll get into quantum leaping when you cover vulnerability first, people, okay? We'll cover quantum leaping eventually. But I'm at a point where, again, I'm going through the Babe Method as we speak. This is technically my third rendition. Every time that I almost level up in who I am, I'm able to do it more effectively, more efficiently. And that's what the Babe Method is, guys. I'm just trying to teach you how to be freaking leveled up as quickly and as effectively and as efficiently as possible. What? Oh, does it look like a pee-pee? Listen, we'll keep it just in case I ever start an OnlyFans. We'll have content. Is that worse? Welcome to the real world of we're just doing it. Learning as you go. Let's fix it. I'm literally sorry we had to do that to you. We were like, wow, we already got better with episode 2. Let's level up one more time. Oh, so last time we left off, I was telling you how now that I'm going through the third time of me kind of like recreating myself, I guess would be the best term for it. Again, quantum leaping, but we will get to that point. Now, apparently, between the 25th and November 8th is like an optimal time for it. But I just think that's very strange timing considering that I've had so many strange like signs and just people in my life are out of the blue tell me that like my 28th year is a really important year. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. I have a girl, she's my BFF. She works at True Leave. She recognizes me every time I'm there. And one time she just like randomly out of blue was like, I got you something. And I was like, this is crazy. What'd you get me? Because I didn't get you anything and I feel terrible about it. And she got me oh my God, I really am an angel numbers and crystals girl. But she did get me a stone. And it was this green little heart, right? It was like, I just felt like this reminded me of you. And I felt like I need to get it for you. And I was like, that's crazy. I looked up the meaning behind the stone and it was literally about like being reborn, like rebirth and almost like doing away with old energy and like bringing in new energy. And like I was telling you guys in the first episode, my life over the past year was literally just everything is different. It's actually mind-blowing. And for the past 2 years, I just really have not been super happy around my birthday. And looking back, it was just a lot of anxiety associated with knowing that my happiness lied in somebody else's hands and feeling like because I wasn't making myself happy, nobody was going to be able to make me happy the right way. And now I can see that out of my relationship. But anyway, so crazy to think that now. And this year, I haven't even noticed. Like this month has gone by so fast that today I literally thought to myself, look, I love to celebrate a month long. Like give me a whole month for my birthday. I will find stuff to do. But I've just been so engulfed in like the direction that we're heading in with this podcast and where I want to be a year from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, that today I was like, oh my God, it's the 25th. Like my birthday's in 3 days. And I didn't even notice. And it's not that I didn't even notice like in a bad way. It's that I'm having such a great time and I'm so happy constantly that I'm just not waiting for my birthday for somebody to make me happy. And that just kind of blew my mind, you know? So yeah. So I'm pretty excited for this birthday because I really feel like it just feels so freaking good to be able to celebrate because I want to celebrate. And it's going to be the way that I want because I say it. So I'm just like really happy about it. Anyway, talk about vulnerability. It is pretty crazy to be able to finally almost like be vulnerable enough to see these things happen almost before my eyes. Like this literally is me coming to terms with things that I'm just now realizing in front of you as we're speaking. But it's only through being able to be vulnerable at any point in time. And I feel like that really brings us to what vulnerability is. Because when I wanted to discuss this topic, I thought to myself, it's not enough to just jump into the definition of vulnerability because that in itself, I think, is confusing. I think first we have to have an understanding of what honesty is and what transparency is. I actually had a client, and when we were having conversations, she told me that there was a difference between honesty and transparency. And at the time, I had never even thought about it. And she was like, honesty is when somebody tells you the truth with you asking. But transparency is when somebody tells you the truth without you asking. And I never looked at it that way. But that's something that hit home with me because, you know, I think that this happens a lot in relationships, especially early on. But everybody has that one conversation like, you not telling me is also lying. I know that in early stages of relationships, like withholding information, like that conversation is had, right? Like, is withholding information considered being sneaky? Like, is it a bad thing? Is it lying? And I know that that comes up and I'm like, oh, well, had there been more clarity as to what transparency is versus honesty, a lot of those conversations I think would be maybe not resolved, but now you're both on the same page and you can actually communicate. But I was like, wow, I see now how not only can you be honest with people or, again, dishonest, but you can be honest and dishonest with yourself. And transparency is almost all or nothing, right? So in order for you to be vulnerable, you have to be able to be transparent because there is all of you at all times. You can't hide from yourself. And if you do, you're being dishonest. So to be vulnerable, first you have to understand that you're capable of lying to yourself and withholding information from yourself that could help you grow because it is going to hurt you. That is the whole vulnerability part. So now we get into the actual definition of vulnerability, which kind of blew my mind because it all seemed to immediately associate it with harm, which I understand because it's almost like a weakness, right? A vulnerability is like a weak point where that means that it could be a breaking point or like a point of harm, right? So I just thought that was really interesting because when we talk about vulnerability with people, I don't think that there's an assumed risk. Yes. See, I would almost debate that there's not. I would love for everybody to get to the point where you can see all your vulnerabilities. You have all your vulnerabilities laid out in front of you. You've accepted them and you know that you've stepped into your own power and that regardless of how others see your vulnerabilities or who sees your vulnerabilities, that you still remain who you are. So I know that you can get to that point. So I don't necessarily want to say that it's an assumed risk. I think that people assume that there is risk. There's a level of awareness and self-awareness that happens in people who are capable of being vulnerable. Because within your own vulnerabilities and within looking into yourself and doing that work, you're able to see other people and recognize yourself in other people. But if we're ignorant to ourselves and we're ignorant to our own insecurities and our own flaws and we don't deal with them and we don't know what that feels like, then we don't have the sensitivities or we don't have that empathy towards other people that are experiencing something like that. So I think that being able to be vulnerable really separates you from your level of self-awareness that you can achieve. I was talking to my friend Sam today about it, which, happy birthday, Sam. She's a Scorpio baby too, and it's pretty great. Her and I were talking, and I was telling her how vulnerability to me is almost like a wall. People will describe it kind of like a wall, right? But in reality, it's not one wall because you don't just get through one wall vulnerability and you're like, well, here I am. Saw here, did it one time. That's like the people who go to therapy one time and they're like, I'm good. No, you got to go multiple times because we got lots of layers. So to me, the way I picture it is almost like your heart, your sense of self, who you are, your little essence of a person is in the center. And you have all these walls layered and built around you, right? You have a gate and you have a key. But many times, it's not that we don't have the tools or the resources to be vulnerable and to dig into our vulnerabilities. It's that we don't want to face ourselves. So we actually are locking in our vulnerabilities. It's not the other way around. They're not locked in there. We are locking them in there. Once you open these gates, you get in there and it is scary. You don't know what's on the other side. And you're also leaving the gate open because you can't see inside without opening it, right? So now you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable for somebody coming in. You're vulnerable for somebody hurting you. You don't know. And I understand that. And I've been there. I think that we've all been there. But what I think separates you from everybody else is that you will be able to say, okay, I made it past this wall. I'm okay. I'm able to look around and understand that I'm still here. I'm still me. Whether or not these vulnerabilities exist behind the wall or I'm in here with them, they still exist. So you can either turn away or turn towards them. It's like going to the zoo and not looking at the lion and being like, yeah, lions aren't real. Just because you're not looking at it, just turn around. It's right there. Same thing. Your vulnerabilities are right there. And if you don't face them, they're still gonna be there. And it's worse when you don't just look them in the eyes. Oh my God, I have an analogy. When I first went to Halloween Horror Nights, I was so scared. I was so scared. I was one of those kids, like my parents never let me watch scary movies. I didn't care to watch them. I was like, why would I do that? And then I started dating somebody who loved them. They wanted me to go to Halloween Horror Nights. I went through the house. First time I go through the house, my eyes are closed and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't open my eyes right now. This is so freaking scary. These sounds, everything's dark. And I wanted to leave, honestly. I hated it. And then I went through the house again and my boyfriend at the time was like, just open your eyes. It's really not that scary. And I was like, that sounds insane. Like, I just couldn't understand how people were going through these houses. Once I opened my eyes and I looked at the monsters, I realized I was like, oh, this is literally not scary and you can see them coming. And that's when I was like, wow, we really make monsters in our head so much scarier. So when you are faced with vulnerabilities, if you do not turn towards them, if you do not face them, they're usually so much worse. Now we can have a method for addressing them. And you understand that you've made it through each wall and you have been there for yourself every single time and it has not changed who you are, but only allowed you to better yourself. Then you reach a point where you get to the center and you are able to say like, okay, now I can see all my vulnerabilities. And because I see everything that I'm not, I can see everything that I am. Because you're not hiding parts of yourself. Duality is also something that is really, really important when we're talking about vulnerability, because opposites have to exist. For things to exist, there has to be an opposite. So for us to feel so deeply in such negative emotions, we have to also be able to feel such positive emotions. Like the deeper you feel in one direction, you feel the other. So there is this like duality to it. So it's now being able to accept not only everything that makes you weak, but it's also knowing that because you have things that make you weak, you're still so strong. Because you're able to see now everything that could hold you back, you see that you've overcome and have become who you are. So being vulnerable, yes, is so scary. Well, first of all, it brings you back to I, right? Like I brought that up in the past. It brings you back to your authentic self, the person you are right now in this moment, not the idea of who you want to be, not the person that has been, but like what you are in this moment. You need to accept that before anything can happen. When it comes to manifesting, when it comes to your diet, your exercise, your relationships, if you don't know who you are in this present moment, then you don't know what you want. You don't know how you're affecting people. You don't know because you don't have a clear direction because you're lying to yourself. So you don't know where the lies are, right? And trust me, I know what that's like because I've caught myself in that. That's where I have been. And I know that it was the biggest blind side of my life. And I'm somebody who felt self-aware. Like I felt like the biggest hypocrite ever. And that's also a point that I made to my therapist, because of course I went to therapy after that. But one point that my therapist made to me was, the biggest mistake is thinking that you're done when it comes to self-awareness. And since that day, when ego makes me think like I don't need to work on that, or like I do a toxic behavior that I know I shouldn't be doing, but I'm like, it's fine because I did three non-toxic behaviors, so that's fine. It's like all those times I'm like, no, I have to be the person that I want to be at all times, or else I'm not being that person. That's being dishonest, right? I'm just lying to myself, saying that I am that person, but acting a different way. So once you're able to be vulnerable to a small degree, you'll start to see that not only will you start to align yourself with who you are, it starts to feel good to accept who you are. Because even the negative things, as soon as you accept them, you can work on them. But if you never accept them, they fester. And you know that they do. And that's why you get anxiety. And that's why you get stressed out from nothing, because you have things that are just looming that you're ignoring, and you're trying to fill yourself with other things, or honestly blame other things for them. When in reality, it's just us needing to turn in and say, okay, let's face the things that we hate so we can fix them, right? Instead of just letting them just play with our freaking emotions 24/7, like the freaking monsters and in Halloween Horror Nights. I think I've demonstrated to you why it's important that we are vulnerable. And honestly, like one of the things I really want to get into is manifesting eventually. But I really think that through the Babe method, you are manifesting, but it's more than you manifesting. It's you putting your entire being in alignment with your goals to the point you don't even know you're manifesting. You don't even need to think about it, because everything you're already doing is manifesting your future. So that's like my thing. Like when I go on TikTok, I see so much like spiritual TikTok and like manifesting stuff like that. And I'm like, I understand, but it's almost like you're missing it. Like you're almost there. And again, for them, what they're missing is that whole returning to I feel like it's like the difference between like you learning choreography and you knowing how to dance. I feel like that's really different. Like I can teach you choreography and you can technically do choreography, but wouldn't it be better if you knew how to dance and you could do it on your own? And like you just could do any choreography because you actually know how to dance. I feel like that's the difference between practicing manifesting tactics and being a creator. And for me, the Babe method is about being a creator, creating your whole life to align with where you want to be and who you want to be, so that you become that person effortlessly. There's nothing holding yourself back from becoming that person except you. No manifesting, no nothing. You're already that person. You don't have to call upon them. You just have to let yourself be them. And I think that's the difference between you having I have to go chase my future self, and I am currently becoming my future self. See what I'm saying? Even to manifest, you have to be vulnerable, right? Because you have to know what you want. You have to know where you're starting at, what materials you're starting with, and what you need to get to where you're going. You need to be transparent with yourself. No one's opinion matters except your own. And be proud of yourself for each little vulnerability you're going through. So like I said, even if you don't feel you're capable of being vulnerable with yourself alone, then you need to be proud of yourself for acknowledging that. And then saying, okay, now that we have the problem, what is the solution? What is the first step of that solution? Okay? Contacting the therapist or getting help to call a therapist. Again, so each layer, that's another layer of vulnerability that you'll go through. But through each layer, you'll see that you will survive, you will be there for yourself, and you will make it through another layer. Along the way, you're going to encounter people that are going to help you through those walls. There are going to be people that don't go past certain layers. And there's going to be people that you don't allow to go past certain layers. And that's okay, but it's knowing that you're in complete control of all of that. And when you get to the end, you're going to realize that the only person that has been there for you since the beginning, the only person that has allowed those gates to be open and has walked that path is you. And that's the only person that you'll have to thank. And that'll feel so good, I swear. I promise you. You'll be able to stand there and look around and you'll be able to say like, okay, you know what? Now that I know everything I am and everything that I'm not, what do I want to be? Let's freaking go be it, right? Now we can go be it. So that's why I think vulnerability is really important. I think that it's the first step to any level of self-awareness. And in the Babe method specifically, something that needs to happen on a very deep level before you're able to just completely recreate who you are. But now you see how once we've broken ourselves down to a list of what we are, what we want, what we aren't, who we want to be, we now have a direction. We can now create a path, right? We can address things that need to be addressed. One of our purposes in this lifetime is simply to learn about ourselves. That's it. I think that is going to bring you so much more happiness than you realize. I've gotten so much satisfaction and so much pride in acknowledging how much I've grown and how much I've learned, and specifically about myself, like how much I've been able to learn about myself by myself. And I just want other people to understand that they can feel that same thing. But a lot of times we experience it and then we're not proud. So you know what? This week, I want you to be proud of your vulnerability. Anytime that you push that boundary of vulnerability or open another gate or open another layer to your vulnerabilities, I want you to celebrate it. Write it down. Be proud. For me, taking photos. I will take a photo anytime that I'm happy, anytime that I feel a feeling I want to feel again, something that, or even a moment that I want to be in. Nothing posed, just something that takes me back, because I know that if I felt it before, I can feel it again. And not only can I feel it again, I created that sensation with the chemicals in my body. Isn't that freaking insane? So why wouldn't I not be able to create that again whenever I want by looking at a photo? I just don't see how I couldn't. So a lot of times it just is a little bit of a celebration in the moment that'll get you to open that next layer of vulnerability and allow you to realize that you're going to be okay. And everything is going to flow as soon as you go through that next gate. So vulnerability is such a crucial first step that I felt that it was really important to go ahead and talk about it first before we got into the other core values. Next week, we'll be talking about passion, and then intelligence, and then strength. And in that order, each week, my content on Instagram and on TikTok will start to correlate with these topics. To be honest, to be selfish a little bit, I believe I'm going to be doing them solo because I want to be able to really get very important messages across that are fundamental to the Babe method that don't really require input from other people just yet. And we will get to the point where I'm going to have so many amazing people on to really exemplify how they've been able to create their reality. We've come to a point, like I said before, where we have so much room for everyone to win that why are we not helping each other win, right? Like, it's just not cute. It's just not cute anymore to gatekeep and be mean. Like, I feel like we should be on each other's teams, you know? So, I don't know. I think that it's time that we just like all be nice to each other. Wow, I got more than I thought. Okay, you seem like you have no vulnerability whatsoever. Fascinating. Because I feel like I demonstrated, I'm the first one to tell you I have all the vulnerabilities. Whatever I have them. And I will acknowledge them if I can find them. I will, because I have come to realize that the sooner I can acknowledge my vulnerabilities, the sooner I make them strengths. And remember, strength is part of the Babe method. How do you navigate being honest and vulnerable with yourself? I just hold myself accountable. I think that's the word that we're missing here, is accountability. So if I say I'm going to be a certain person, I make sure that I am acting like that person. So it's, again, not just being honest, but being transparent, saying I am becoming the person I want to be. I'm not just putting in the work when I'm putting in the work, right? Like, I'm at all times in alignment with my goal. I'm at all times the person who achieves the things I want to achieve. I'll give myself an out all the time. Like, I will play chicken with myself all the time. I'll tell myself, like, okay, Manuela. Okay, for example, like when I start to get lazy or when I start to get like petty about like putting in, I'm like always working. Let's be honest. Like, it's all day. Like, I don't ever stop because social media is just like all the time. So when I get to the point where I'm like, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to. I think to myself, okay, Manuela, go get a job. Go ahead. I'm like, go ahead. The computer's right in front of you. You can look it up, find a job, go sit in an office. but that's just not in alignment with who I am. So I can allow myself to be lazy POS because that's what I'm pretending that I am, or pretending that but that's not who I am. So the accountability comes in where I'm like, am I acting in alignment with who I know I am? Or am I giving in to my vulnerabilities and maybe my fear of failure? Because most of the time, it is not that I'm scared of succeeding. Okay? I'm scared that I'm going to fail. So I think that's kind of how I personally will address my own vulnerabilities. I don't hide from them. I look them dead in the eye like I do in the haunted houses. And I say, look, take it or leave it. Am I going to give into this vulnerability? Am I going to sit at this level of this gate right now? I'm going to sit here for a while. I can do so. You're allowed to choose to stay there, but you have to acknowledge that you're choosing to stay there. Been rejected 3 times in the last week. What am I doing wrong? You're most likely not doing anything wrong. Most likely those connections were just not the right connections for you. And that's okay. If anything, maybe the fact that you're trying 3 times in the past week tells me that you're maybe not spending enough time on yourself. Because to be honest, if you're trying 3 times, and I'm assuming with 3 different people, then that's not really giving you a lot of time to get to know these people and really know what they're going to be into anyway, right? So you shouldn't be hard on yourself if these people don't even know you and they're rejecting you. They're pretty much just rejecting you off like face value. And you know that you're more than that. So I would say that you're not technically doing anything wrong, but I think what you could do, maybe spend less time or invest less energy into making 3 connections that might not lead anywhere, and instead focus on connecting with yourself so that people that want to be with you are attracted to you. How do you allow yourself to be vulnerable with a new significant other and allow them to see your insecurities? This kind of touches back to the whole like going through the gates, right? So when you have a new significant other, you are at the beginning of the gates, right? And you're like, okay, these first few, they're not that bad. There's some I actually want to show you because it actually feels nice when somebody like can acknowledge your vulnerabilities or your insecurities and not, and still be there for you. So you might get through a couple and that'll be great. But then you'll start to get to some that get tougher. And at that point, I think that there just needs to be communication. In my opinion, I would want my significant other to get to know me all the way through all the levels of vulnerability I have. So at the point of you becoming really insecure with going past those gates, that's when you sit down and you say, okay, I know that at the end, no matter what you see, no matter what you think of me, I will still be that person. I will still be that person. And I need to know that I want to be with somebody who goes through all of these gates with me and still wants to be with me in that inner circle, So it's first having that conversation with yourself and saying, okay, I'm about to let somebody through these walls. And no matter what happens, I will be okay. And it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. If that person can't make it to the end and can't be there with all my vulnerabilities and all my insecurities, then that person is not the person for you. And that's okay. The sooner you know that, the sooner you can start to move in the direction of finding the person that is supposed to be there with you. And it just gets easier each time. You know that you made it. You know that you survived it with somebody who wasn't even supposed to be there. So the person that's supposed to be there is going to make it feel like a breeze. How could it not? So you're going to know, and you're going to be so much stronger for that person that comes through, knowing that you've already been through these gates. You already know how the gates open. Already know the maze that is our inner workings. And you're going to be so much stronger. And imagine if that other person also put in that work. You're both coming into this knowing that you're going to be there to the end. You both have vulnerabilities and insecurities. And you know that it does not matter. You already love that person, right? So it's good to know that there are levels to this. And it's good to know that you can only get stronger. So I would say that really when it comes to anything relationship, it's all just going to lead back to communication. Communicating and making sure that you're both on the same page, and then moving forward, communicating with yourself, knowing that no matter what happens with anyone else external to you, you've always got you and you always will be okay. And you've survived everything until today. Okay, but this one I do want to address. This will be my last one. So you seem like you have no vulnerability whatsoever. I think it's so funny because I think that I'm actually probably one of the most vulnerable people you will ever encounter. And I think that that is what separates me from a lot of people. It's that I'm able to see a lot of people for who they are because I'm able to see myself for who I am. And granted, I'm still learning each and every day. I don't know every single layer. And like I said in the past, I don't want to. Like, I really do not. Because as soon as you think you're done learning about yourself is the second you got to start over. I promise you that. The second you think you know everything is the second you need to go back to drawing board, because I'm telling you, you can hide things from yourself, and that is the worst feeling. So never stop working on yourself. I'm so excited to continue these podcast episodes and continue to dive deep into the 4 core values. Next week, we will be talking passion. And it is Scorpio season, baby. Scorpio season, talking passion. I'm excited. It's going to be lit. Okay, bye, guys. I will see you guys next Monday. I can't wait to talk to you guys on Instagram about how you guys like this episode. And yeah, you guys are freaking incredible. Dude, like, comment, subscribe. Please, please share it. Send it to your friends and family. Send it to me. I would love to hear your comments. Just spread the word. I love you guys. Thank you guys for your support. Mwah.